What's going on, everybody? You are tuned into the Justin Henry Show live here on the YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Make sure you guys follow along here, presented by Champions Round. Download the app, play Daily Dozen and Spicy Slips. Get all your NBA Finals action in, especially since we got a giveaway going on this week. Spicy Slips giveaway for a signed Damian Lillard jersey. You're here tuned in now to our weekly broadcast. We're doing some programming changes here on the Champions Round channel, so you'll see my face here weekly along with the other talent here across the board at Champions Round. Today, we're going to get into some NBA Finals predictions. We got the Denver Nuggets, Miami Heat. We got to talk about it because this is going to be a better series than everybody's giving credit for. We got to talk about Jokic, his standing in the all-time MVP in center conversation. That is a must-have conversation before the final starts. Jimmy Butler as well, where is he at? And then talk about some of these coaching changes too, right? Nick Nurse now in Philly. We're seeing a lot of these major marquee names finally finding landing spots. And then we'll get into some NFL too. Some rumblings out of San Francisco that'll change the landscape of how opening day may look for the San Francisco 49ers. And then DeAndre Hopkins as well is now officially a free agent. So we'll get into his potential landing spots and if it's going to be a good fit, real and fantasy. So first I want to talk about this NBA Finals, man. And everybody's chalking this up as like, oh, Denver's going to sweep. Denver in 4, Denver in 5. All season long, what have we been doing? Postseason, Miami Heat. They're gonna lose to the Bucks. They're going to lose to the Knicks. They're going to lose to the Celtics. Oh, they're going to be the first team to blow a 3-0 lead. And here we are, still talking about the Miami Heat in the middle of June. They'll be playing meaningful games at least through the middle of June. This Miami Heat team is not going away. They're not. And the Denver Nuggets are as strong a team as they are. They have the front runner for the most of the season at MVP and Jokic, a very deep roster. This Miami team has grit that we've never seen before. From a team on paper that looks so deficient compared to all the rest of the teams, Miami Heat are going to be a problem in this finals. Do I think they win the series? No, I don't. I still think the Nuggets are the better team. I think the Nuggets go in 6. Nuggets in 6. But I do think we see a hell of a performance, and there's a lot of value with this Heat team that if something goes wrong for this Nuggets team, if something goes wrong, the Miami Heat will be right there to pick things up. I would say the Nuggets are great at home. They've only lost 4 games all season long when Nikola Jokic has been in the lineup. 4 games at home. That's it. 37-4 at home when Jokic is on the court. Miami has struggled to win games at home at times. So this could be one of those things where we see, some advantages for the Nuggets there. But I'm not questioning the heart of this team, the coaching of this team, the culture of this Miami Heat team, which I think is going to be a mainstay for this finals. We're going to be talking about that as we have the entire postseason. So I got to get my guy Matt Mbone HD in the building, who is our honorary Miami Heat fan for this postseason. Matt, what's going on, dog?
I'm bringing out the Tyler Hero Miami Vice jersey. I'm just letting you know for next week, hopefully the week after that, assuming we don't have a sweep, the Miami jersey is coming out. I'm going full-blown Heat here.
And you got the pink one?
It's the baby blue, not last year, the year before that. It's probably like my most, whenever I wear it out in public, it's the most confident jersey I own.
Dude, hey, those Vice jerseys are wild, bro.
They go nice.
They're very slick. I like them, especially when they had them, D Wade one. I feel like that was the time. And you mentioned Tyler Hero busting that jersey out. Like, Tyler Hero might be back in this series too, Matt. And, I'm all over. Obviously, I think that this is going to be more competitive than everybody else is giving this credit for. A lot of people are just expecting the Nuggets to kind of dog walk the Heat. The Heat are going to be competitive, man. And Tyler Hero is expected back at some point in the series. What's your overall feeling on the series in general?
In terms of a whole, I think Denver is on paper extremely, they're by far the most talented team. But this Miami team has been counted out numerous times throughout this playoff run. And, Justin, I think originally going into the conference finals, we both thought LA was, I think we said LA in 5, right? And that didn't work out. And then we were thinking maybe, Boston in 5. I expect to have an extremely competitive NBA Finals. I think for me, can Miami steal a game at home? I believe Minnesota won what? They won 1 game in Denver, right?
No, Denver is undefeated at home.
They haven't lost at home?
They're 6-0 at home this stretch.
Wow. Okay, for some reason I thought Minnesota won a game. That's the question mark. And it was the same thing that we talked about when we looked at the Lakers series. We asked ourselves, can the Lakers, they've been so good at home. All they have to do is steal one, and then, they'll take care of business. And for me, if Miami can win game 1 or 2, that could change everything. Tyler Hero's scheduled for, I believe it's game 3 they're targeting, which is nice now because, we got 2 days in between games. Like, it's not like game, off night game. So the more time, better for Hero. I originally said I want to take back my statement about him maybe coming off the bench. I give me Tyler Hero, put him back in the lineup. Not enough people are talking about that. Like when Jason Tatum went down and was like, oh my God, like Boston, Tatum was injured for game 7. Tyler Hero's been out since the first game of the playoffs?
Yeah.
He went out game 1 in Milwaukee. Like I think, was it the same game Giannis got hurt originally?
Yes, both of them went down, and that was when we all thought, okay, the Heat are done. It's going to be the Bucks series, and since then they've proven that they can win without Tyler Hero. But in this series, Denver is going to be able to score. Like that Miami Heat zone is probably going to get exposed with Jokic. Trying to double and trap Jokic is never a good thing, especially with the shooters that Denver has. But if they can get the firepower, if Miami Heat can get the firepower back, and then a hero comes along for game 3. Yes, this might be a more entertaining series. I just think that, the grit that Miami has is one of those things you just can't count out, right? Like Denver might be better. Denver might have more talent. They might have better shooting. They might have the best player on the floor. But the one thing you can't count out is that this Miami Heat team, they have the mentality that it takes to win a championship.
They have the heart. Do you think Jamal Murray, will Jamal Murray guard Jimmy Butler? Like, will we see that matchup? I'm assuming Jimmy will take Jamal, right?
Yeah, well, there's probably going to be a lot of switching because, Gabe Vincent's normally out on the perimeter. We see Caleb Martin out on the perimeter sometimes. So it really comes down to matchups, right? What side of the floor are they on? And a lot of times when they're playing the zone, they're either playing that 2-3 zone that we see for the Miami Heat a lot, or they're playing a 1-3-1, some variation of one of those two. But with Jokic, if they're able to put him out on the perimeter on the wing, now the defense has to collapse on the outside. It makes things a little bit more difficult for this Heat team because Jokic has the ability to find shooters all over the floor. They have a diver. They have somebody who can go to the lane and penetrate and cut, and Aaron Gordon, and finish strong at the rim. So they have a guy that can play ISO, Jamal Murray. Like, this is going to put a lot of strain on this Heat defense who, for the Celtics, they've had so much inconsistent shooting. Their bigs have been inconsistent. You talk about Al Horford with his shooting. And then you go through some of these other series, the Knicks struggled with the zone. The Bucks struggled with it. Like, I just think that because of what Jokic can do in his playmaking, it's going to change course for this whole defense. Like, the Miami Heat's going to have to find a different way to succeed because Jokic, let's put it to you this way, Matt, he's probably going to get a triple-double in at least 3 of these games.
Yeah. So this is a little off topic here. Did you see yesterday what Shams put out about Robert Williams was throwing up throughout game 7?
Interesting note, because you can tell something was affecting him during the game, right? Like, you see Jason Tatum kind of limping, and then you see like Robert Williams, and he's like kind of huffing and puffing, going down the lineup. He goes out, goes to the locker room, comes back in the game, goes out, and it was like there was no injury report.
Yeah, I was like, does he have to go to the bathroom? Like, what's going on here? Like, does he?
Yo, you never know in the finals, man. I remember they took out Paul Pierce in a wheelchair for having to take a little boo boo. So you never know when it comes to those guys, but. I know I got Denver in 6, and I think that this isn't one of those series where home court is just so, imperative because we've seen the Heat went on the road. We know Denver can go anywhere and win. I just think the Heat get 2 games in some form or fashion. Maybe one of them comes in Denver, or maybe both of them are at home to start the season. Like, I think for sure we see 2 wins at least out of the Heat because of how competitive they are. I got Denver in 6. What's your take on it?
I got Miami in 7. I'm going back to my roots. I think at this point in time, like, people keep asking me, like, oh, who do you think's going to win the finals? My head is telling me it's going to be the Denver Nuggets, but my heart's with Miami and Jimmy Butler. And, hey, my heart, it didn't let me down in the conference finals when I took Miami against Boston. And I'm going to finish this thing through. I really hope. I just want a good series in the day. I want to see the season come to an end and just, look back and be like, man, dude, the conference finals were awesome. Like, the NBA finals were great. Like, we had some great playoff matchups and, some of these storylines throughout the season.
The Miami Heat went to the finals in 2020, went away from the finals last season, and here they are again at the top of the Eastern Conference. We have to call them the best team in the East at this point. But for everything that they've been able to do, and I know these guys have revenge on their mind and want to hold up that Larry O'Brien trophy, I don't see it happening. I think the Nuggets, there's a lot of revenge on the Nuggets' mind too that we don't talk about. Nikola Jokic snubbed for MVP this season for Joel Embiid. I think he wants to hoist up that Finals MVP hardware. And so, we talk about Jokic and his all-time greatness. There's a lot to think about with that. If he does happen to get a Finals MVP, if this Nuggets team does win a Finals, where are we placing Jokic among all these all-time great centers? We can go back and talk about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain, Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem Olajuwon, right? And we're starting to get down the list. Jokic, 2 MVPs, a Finals MVP. If this thing goes down and he gets a Finals win, can we start to put him among the greats?
I think we have to. I mean, just looking at his accolades alone, and I know he doesn't have the longevity of some of these other guys, but you'd assume the path he's on right now, especially if he goes out and he wins an NBA Finals and he wins an MVP too, on top of that for the Finals, Justin, you got to put him up there.
I think you have to, right? Like, you have to put Jokic in there and it's not for the fact that he's this super dominant player like Shaq, or he's some defensive wizard, footwork wizard like Hakeem Olajuwon. He's not the greatest scorer in the league like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He doesn't have 100-point games like Wilt Chamberlain. He's doing something no other player has done at his position. The way he facilitates the ball, he's able to make his teammates better, and his stat padding that they talk about, no, it's leading to winning. He's in the Finals right now, and if we get a championship out of Jokic at a very prime age, I think he's only 27, 28 years old, there's still a lot of time for Jokic to continue this trajectory he's on, right? He's an MVP caliber player in the prime of his career, and yes, because he's such a unicorn, the way he's able to pass the ball as a big man, he's doing something we've never seen before. I think a Finals MVP and championship for Jokic firmly cements him inside the top 10 to 7, like that 7 to 10 range, maybe even higher.
My question to you is, I also think the other side of things are he's the perfect leader. He's humble, he puts his teammates first. He's never in the media. And whenever he's talking in the media, it's about other people. Like even, the NBA the MVP award. He was like, you know what Joel deserves? I don't care. I just want to win. It's everything you could ever ask for. He stays off social media. He's got this mysterious life where it's all we know about him is that he likes to ride his horses, right? We don't really know anything about the guy outside of the fact that he is just a baller, and he really, you said the perfect unicorn. He's special, and I don't want to take that for granted.
Everybody's talking about Wembanyama as the unicorn because of the size and the weight and the length. But what Jokic is doing, you can't really replicate that at his size, or you can't aspire to be a 6'10" point guard. You can't. And I'm sorry, 7-foot point guard. You really can't. You can't just train that, right? That's not something that's like trying to be LeBron. You can't do it. But what Jokic is doing, I don't think there's anybody ever in history that's played the game the way that he has. And, you started talking about it. And I'm like, when I look at Jokic, bro, I think, would I rather have Jokic on my team or Shaq? That's a hard question. And, it's easy to say Shaq because we've seen his career played out. We haven't seen Jokic's career played out yet. Yeah. So it's very interesting to me. Now, even when you start to look at it, is he the best European player of all time, right? A lot of the international game has been picked up over the last few years. I don't see how you can't say he's not. I cannot think. Manu has kind of been that staple. Dirk has been that staple. It's been Manu, Dirk, those have been the spearheads of the greatest overseas players of all time. Jokic, Dirk, who would you rather have?
I mean, ask me this question in 2 weeks. I think still right now Dirk gets because he won the Finals and he won that championship and the MVP and stuff like that. And Dirk is, when you look at some of the staples of the NBA over the last 20 years, I think most people love Dirk. Yeah. Jokic is one of those players where I feel we don't really talk about him enough, and he doesn't really get the respect, and he's finally starting to get what he deserves. And I think if he wins a championship and he wins the Finals MVP, that's just going to go through the roof. Right now, I'm still going to go Dirk, but give it 5 years, it's going to be Jokic. How long? Dirk played for 18 years or whatever?
He played a long ass time. So the one thing, about Jokic, and that, you kind of mentioned it and alluded to it earlier, it's he doesn't care about these awards. I think he gave the award to Joel Embiid by sitting out all those games. He made sure he didn't get a triple-double. He was pushing for the triple-double, and then he only got 9.8 or 9.9. it's like he didn't really go for the triple-double, which was very interesting because we know players do that, and he could have been the first center ever the triple-double. He didn't care about that. He didn't care about the 3 times in a row being MVP. It's like he said, you know what, Joel? Go ahead and take this award. He talked about it, and it's like he didn't care about that as much as he cares about this NBA Finals. So it's interesting because Jimmy Butler did the same thing. Bam Adebayo's carrying the award for Eastern Conference Finals, and Jimmy was like, nah, I don't want it. I don't want it. I'll hold the other one, man. What do you think about Jimmy Butler? Because we talked a lot about his postseason, dynamic. It's like, how much do we have to start factoring that in now to potentially like a Hall of Fame career for Jimmy Butler, who's been an all-star caliber player during the season, but not necessarily like the elite player in the game during the regular season? Is it time to start taking postseason accomplishments a little bit further into the equation when we talk about Hall of Famers and greatness?
It is, and especially with players sitting out in the regular season really not meaning what it used to be. I think, when you look at Jimmy Butler, obviously there's a switch that he flips come postseason time, and he continues to do it. A finals MVP, it's crazy because I think the word superstar gets kind of thrown out there, and it's like, there's a difference between being an all-star and being a superstar. Jimmy Butler, I think, in my opinion, he's a superstar in the regular season. He's an all-star, but he's shown time and time again that he can flip that switch. And if he adds, this is his shot. I mean, I don't know if he's going to get better chance. This is his oh my gosh. As a Bulls fan, I love Jimmy so much. I got a Jimmy Butler jersey. After we lost Derrick Rose, like Jimmy Butler was my guy. So I was heartbroken when we traded him. But I'm rooting for Jimmy, and I'm pulling for the Miami Heat.
I think, and it's such a strange caveat because, yes, he will have been to the finals twice, but if he doesn't win, I think that kind of weakens the resume. It's not like he's an MVP player. I mean, he's been all NBA, but he's not like this super dominant first team all NBA type guy. I don't know. It's tough because we know what he is come postseason, but at the same time, it's like you have to factor it all in. Do I think Jimmy Butler is a top 5 player in the NBA right now? I don't. Yeah. But is he somebody that I want in the postseason as one of my top 5? Yes, absolutely. Exactly. Like now I want him on my team. So it really is an interesting dynamic when it comes to Jimmy Butler, who's not just a one-way player. He's a two-way player. He's clutch. He's a great teammate. He's a great leader. It's just we see a lot of it in clutch situations or high-pressure situations as opposed to like long-term. He's kind of flamed out where he's been in Chicago and Philly and Minnesota. It's like you recognize the greatness, but Miami has been the first place where we've seen him take that leadership to the next level. So he's a curious case because he's, coming up on towards the end of his career now, still performing at a high level, but I don't know where to put him. Like he's at that line of very good, and I think a championship for Jimmy Butler would change the narrative on who he is. And we're still writing the story on Jimmy Butler, but a championship or a finals MVP or a combination of both changes things a lot.
Does he become a Hall of Famer in your book? If he wins a championship and an MVP, is he a Hall of Famer?
If he wins the finals and finals MVP, I think you have to put him in because that's a very select few and a very select few that have done it as the leaders of their team, where you look back in history and this is a team that probably shouldn't have been there. He'll have been the only 8th seed ever to win an NBA championship, the first play-in team ever to win an NBA championship. Like there's a lot with Jimmy Butler.
A lot of firsts there.
Team, that he's kind of broken the mold, especially with this playoff run. So I think you would have to crown him as that. Now, the bigger question is, if Jimmy Butler makes his finals and loses and never reaches the NBA finals again, is he a Hall of Famer? That's the harder question.
No, I don't think so. I think he's got to win one. I do.
It becomes the Hall of Very Good. I'll say that. Speaking of coaches that have been to championships, lost in championships, there's been a lot of shakeup with the NBA coaching world, right? Obviously, a lot of big-time names have gotten fired, and then more recently, they have gotten hired. We saw Doc Rivers get canned in Philly, but now we got Nick Nurse in Philly. We see in Detroit, Monty Williams had gotten fired from the Suns. Now here he is going to Detroit. Now, we still have more that need to shake out. Budenholzer is still going to get a job. I'm sure Doc Rivers, is going to get employed somewhere. But we have 2 staples right there. And if you were to pick the better fit between Nick Nurse, who had an incredible run in Toronto, obviously one of the more respected coaches in the game, and Monty Williams, who's also a respected coach, time kind of flamed out in Phoenix, unfortunately, going to a rebuilding situation in Detroit. What do you think's the better fit coaching-wise out of these 2?
I think I like Monty Williams in Detroit. And I think Monty's the type of guy, like, he knows he's in a rebuild situation. I think Nick Nurse is going to come in and immediately have like pressure and stuff like that, not only because of his resume, but because of his roster.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure. I think that roster needs a big overhaul. I don't think what they have right now, I don't just adding Nick Nurse, I don't think that's going to get them over the hump in the Eastern Conference. But I think, it's going to take Monty Williams some time. Detroit's got some young pieces. Where are they drafting? Are they this year?
They're number 4 or 5, I want to say.
Okay,
yeah,
so they're gonna have another top lottery pick added to that team. I think Monty Williams is one of those guys that he has proven, like with the Phoenix Suns, he has no issue. Like what he was able to do there. I know they didn't get over the hump, and all people like, oh, it was just his time to leave, but he built something special. And that was a Phoenix Suns organization that had been really bad for a long, long time. When I first came out to Phoenix, it was 2017, and you could get a ticket for $8. Right? $8 to go to a Suns game. Now, if you want to watch the Suns, even in the regular season, like lower bowl, $120, $130, $140 a piece. It doesn't matter who they're playing. Like he was a huge staple to that team. And I expect him, it's going to take time. I'm not saying Detroit's going to make the playoffs next year or anything like that. But I do really like that hire for them.
Yeah, it's a good hire. And you know what? When you start to bring a guy that has almost championship experience, but leading a group of young men, has played with championship caliber players, I think there's a better setup for that. Like you mentioned, the pressure is just a little bit off, right? This is a younger team. The window is there. You give him, a good 4 or 5 years before you start to make any real decisions on Monty Williams. He has time to go through and develop. Whereas Nick Nurse is coming to a situation, Joel Embiid's at the tail end of his career, like the second half of his career, I'd say. James Harden's probably out of there. You're probably going to have to go get another superstar, and it already has a constructed team that's like championship aspirations. The player that you're coming to coach just won MVP. So Nick Nurse, if you can't take this team further than Doc Rivers, they're going to be looking at you crazy.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're set up to fail, because if you can't get past the second round of the playoffs, Nick Nurse, now you are the problem. It's not Doc Rivers anymore. So I think this is a situation where if I was Nick Nurse, I probably would have looked at other opportunities besides Philly,
right?
until they shook things out. Like, we don't know what's going to happen with Harden or if he stays. Like, going to a situation like Detroit at least gives you a little bit more time, but it's also a job you're probably not contending for a championship. So you got to juggle both sides of those, man. That's tough. Speaking of situations where you got to juggle, let's head over to football.
Okay.
Big skin. Let's get into it, man. San Francisco 49ers.
Ooh.
Looking at a quarterback controversy already.
It's not even June.
It's June. It's not even June.
It's not even June.
And here we are talking about quarterbacks. Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is the guy that led this Niners team. Incredible run down the stretches of the second half last season for the 49ers. Unfortunately, he suffered a major injury, has him out until starting training camp, potentially beginning of the season. Over the course of the offseason, Sam Darnold was signed. Yeah, that's Sam Darnold. New York Jets, Carolina Panthers, IR, that's Sam Darnold was signed. And all this commotion came out. Sam Darnold, he could be the quarterback one for the 49ers. Trey Lance, where has he been? He can't stay on the field. So one of the big things that everybody was looking into was who was getting the quarterback one snaps. And so far, 100, not 98, not 99%, 100% of the snaps have been going to Trey Lance in this offseason at the first string position. Now, Sam Darnold is getting some comfy work as the number 2, but I think for all intents and purposes, Trey Lance seems to be the guy right now. I question to you, Matt, who is the Niners starter come
Trey
week
Lance.
1?
Trey Lance. It's got to be Trey Lance. Justin, it's got to be Trey Lance. If they throw Sam Darnold out there, I have officially lost my mind. You don't spend that much on a young quarterback. Again, Trey Lance is still so young, right? He was, how many years has he been in the league?
This is third year in the league.
Yeah. Give him the kid a shot, all right? Worst case, you already know what Sam Darnold is. Come on, it's got to be Trey Lance. There's no way. This shouldn't even be a debate, I feel like.
Sam Darnold, if he is a starting quarterback, I might denounce my Niners. I might have to. Like, at the end of the day, this is a team that has championship aspirations. And Sam Darnold, for what it's worth, is not a championship quarterback. And I don't care. I know Kyle Shanahan is the quarterback whisperer, the quarterback savior. No matter who he has back there, he makes him look good. We saw Jimmy G. We saw Brock Purdy. But when you have a weapon like Trey Lance, You have this weapon that you can use at your disposal. I think you have to test it out, especially when you gave up draft capital. You gave up, a valuable first round pick in order to select him, right? Not just to mention all the capital you gave up to go get him. Brock Purdy, well, you know what you have, but he is dealing with a major injury on that elbow, and we don't know how he's going to look coming back. I think giving your guy Trey Lance, who beat out Jimmy G last year, everybody forgets that he beat out Jimmy G last offseason to take the starting role. I think you give him another opportunity and see what he has. If I had to bet week 1, even with Brock Purdy healthy, I still think this is Trey Lance's job to lose. The only way Trey Lance loses his job is by bad play during the season, and that's when I think Brock Purdy would be probably all healed up and ready to go and lead the team.
When is Brock? Is he supposed to be ready? Do they have a time frame on when he's supposed to be good to go?
So there's been conflicting rumors about Brock Purdy because he had his surgery a little bit later. The anticipation was that he would be there right when training camp started, somewhere when training camp was going. Now there's reports that he might be ready training camp. He might be ready week 1. Okay. There's a lot of ramp up time for a guy. We got to see how he's throwing.
Yeah.
Right. We got to see what he looks like with the offense. That's going to be valuable snaps that Trey Lance is getting with the ones that Brock Purdy's not getting. So timing might be a thing. Like we saw him able to step up, and obviously that doesn't really matter for Brock Purdy. But if Trey Lance is out there and he looks good, why would they go any other direction? No. So I think I only ask you, Matt, like if Brock Purdy's healthy and he's there in training camp, they're going through a quarterback battle. Who do you think wins the quarterback battle? Brock Purdy or Trey Lance?
Trey Lance.
You still think Trey Lance does it?
I still believe in Trey Lance. And my thing, like when Trey Lance didn't start right off the bat, I was like, okay, well, San Francisco is in a little bit of a unique situation. This isn't, the Jets, which again, not the Jets last year, the year before that, or, the Jags a couple years ago, or even the Bears, where it's like, you just want to get your young quarterback reps and you want to see him improve. Like San Francisco had something there where they could win a Super Bowl. Like they had a Super Bowl roster around him. So I understood, like, you put Garoppolo in there, that, he's good enough where he potentially get the job done. But now at this point, we're in year 3 with Trey Lance. You got to put him out there. And I still believe in his talent. I think San Francisco, I highly, highly respect, Shannon, everything they got going there. Like, I think they are a fantastic organization. So I have faith in the reason why they drafted Trey Lance. And if you're not going to play him now, why is he even still on the roster?
I like this Trey Lance love from you, Matt. I like it.
Everyone's like, oh, why do you like I don't know. I just think Trey Lance, like, maybe I'm a little biased because, like, I have Justin Fields and, same draft class, kind of like, but I saw Trey Lance week 1. That was such an unfair. There was a monsoon outside. There was literally a monsoon. Like, come on, we can't judge a kid off that.
Yeah, and I think Trey Lance will have his opportunity. Now, whether it's preseason and he plays bad, like, and then Brock Purdy steps in, I don't know if that's the case or not. But Trey Lance will have his opportunity to be the QB1 for this 49ers team at some point this season. And it'll be a matter of is he ready to go? For everything we're hearing, his footwork's better, throwing motion's better. He was dealing with some injuries last year. He's taking all the first team reps. It seems like the 49ers are getting behind Trey Lance now. So good for him, good for that kid. And hopefully he gets a chance to continue his play. And Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, if you're going to be ready, bro, because your time will come to it and you'll have your opportunity. So I think if he comes back early, there'll be a competition during preseason. If not, there may be an opportunity for Brock Purdy, or maybe he gets still. You never know. Another NFC West team finally released DeAndre Hopkins since we've talked last, and he's officially a free agent now. The time has passed, the window, and DeAndre Hopkins can select whatever team that he wants. There's been a few rumors out there. Just a few, team like Kansas City Chiefs, just the reigning Super Bowl champions, have an opportunity to get D-Hop. The Buffalo Bills. A team with Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, one of the best defenses in the league, has an opportunity to get D-Hop. The Cleveland Browns with Deshaun Watson
reuniting
have a lot of cap room to get D-Hop. And guess what? DeAndre Hopkins just signed with Clutch Sports. Things that make you go, My question to you, Matt, is, he's a free agent, and we've heard talks like, hey, he wants to win. The Bills don't have a lot of money. Chiefs don't have a lot of money. What do you think is more important for D-Hop at this stage of his career? The trophy or the money?
I want to say it's the trophy, but I feel like with every day that's kind of changing. Like, I've even seen stuff about him to New England potentially, right? There's that clip from a couple years back where Bill Belichick's like, I'm so grateful we only have to play you like once a year or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, they could use DeAndre Hopkins, but at the same time, I don't think New England's in a position where they're going to win, a potential Super Bowl this year. I think the Buffalo Bills, right? Like if he really does want to win, I just head to Buffalo or Kansas City. I mean, kind of just pick and choose where you want to go there. There was a part of me was like, oh man, if they somehow release Corey Davis and he could end up as a Jet. I think they turned that down. I was like, that could be kind of nasty too with Rodgers.
Yeah. Robert Saleh came out today and said, that's not happening.
Yeah, he shut that down. But dude, what was DeAndre Hopkins like? He's kind of the reason why all these wide receivers got all this money. Like he kind of said that contract with the Cardinals is exactly what set the bar for the Tyreek Hills, the Devontae Adams, and all these like the Packers and the Chiefs not being able to afford the wide receivers. So I feel like DeAndre Hopkins got his money. Go win yourself a ring, man. Giving
D-Hop his flowers, man. I love it because D-Hop did kind of set the market, and I think he's going to for these older receivers as well. It's like, a lot of times you give up on these receivers, you give them 1-year deals, and I think there's going to be a fight. Odell kind of really did the same thing. He's like, I want my bread. Like, I need my money.
Yeah.
And, taking these team-friendly deals all the time, $1 million here, $2 million here, when so much is at stake for your career, sometimes I think taking the money, man, unfortunately is the route to go because a championship's not guaranteed. You go take the less money for the Chiefs, you don't win a ring, then what? Then they say you're washed up. Then they say you don't deserve to be in the league. There are already reports out there saying D-Hop has lost a step. And I think this is a time like if you're going to go get your bag. Go get a 3-4 year deal with a team that believes in you, that has a championship window, and take that opportunity instead. I think D-Hop should go for the money, right? But also it's with the contender. To me, I really like the setup in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson's going to be there for a while. The goal is to start airing it out. And he also has a complimentary receiver in Amari Cooper out there. David Njoku, they got the run game with Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Like, that could be a formidable team with D-Hop offensively. And the defense is good, too. Like, and they can pay him. He can get his bread. I think the Browns, it's a good spot for D-Hop. What you think?
I like that. Originally, I didn't even think about Cleveland. But as you said before, in my opinion, I think Nick Chubb's like the best running back in football. So you already have the run game. You assume we're going to see a better version of Deshaun Watson. They already have that connection that they had in Houston. Amari Cooper's a beast. Like, I think Cleveland could potentially be a home run.
I kind of got a sneaky vibe out of Cleveland. Like, they're going to sneak up on people. We're not going nowhere with any of the other talks. But I think Cleveland's a team that could be like a dark horse, right, to come out of the NFC, maybe not win the AFC North because, Cincinnati, Baltimore, but like be a sneaky playoff team. They almost were last year, even with the craziness they had. Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. Like they were in the mix for a while. But I do think Cleveland's a better team than advertised. And so in that division, it'll be tough, obviously, but I don't know. D-Hop to the Browns. The one team, another sneaky team, I think that would be a good fit for him in the brand, right? Look at a team in Texas, not Houston, not NRG
I was
Stadium,
like, what?
The Dallas Cowboys. And playing for the star. And Jerry Jones don't mind giving up some bread in order to get the guys that he wants. Pairing up D-Hop, CeeDee Lamb. What you think?
Hey, there was all those Odell rumors, and that didn't pan out. So maybe they are looking for something. And I think, DeAndre Hopkins with the Cowboys, alongside CeeDee Lamb,
Brandon Cooks,
Brandon Cooks,
Tony Pollard.
That could be. So what's Cleveland or Dallas? Like if you're DeAndre Hopkins, right, and you want, like, let's say they were offered the same contracts,
same money, same time,
same money, same time. Who do you think would give you what would give you a better chance to win a ring?
I think Dallas would. And I think Cleveland would be a better football team, but the path is way harder in the AFC. There's a strong 9 teams.
There is.
In the NFC, there's 3 teams. The Eagles, the Niners, and the Cowboys.
Yeah.
There's really nobody else. If you look across the NFC, the Vikings ain't winning. The Lions aren't winning. The Bears aren't winning. The Rams aren't winning. I hate to say the Bears.
Yeah, you had to. It's okay. It's okay.
The Seahawks, they're going to be in the mix, but they're not winning the Super Bowl. The Cardinals, the Rams, the Giants, the Commanders, like that's the whole NFC South. I don't have to say an NFC South team because we know they're terrible. In the NFC, it really comes down to Philly, the Niners, and the Cowboys. And I think that if you're DeAndre Hopkins, you're looking for a quarterback that can get you the ball. I'm not saying that Dak is Deshaun Watson, but I'm also saying that Deshaun Watson is not guaranteed to be Deshaun Watson, right? Like, we got to see that again. So Dak and Deshaun Watson aren't that far apart. The offense is good. The defense is good. And now you're in a position, you're an injury away from the Eagle, or not even an injury, just a mistake away from the Eagles of the Niners not making the Super Bowl. Now Dallas is the favorite to go in there. Yeah. So I look at Dallas as a team. I'm like, that'd actually be a really good fit for D-Hop, and he would still get a lot of the same numbers that he's looking to get. Like, I'm sure he's not trying to go to the Bills and be some like number 2 receiver, Kansas City, and be an afterthought, you know?
Yeah.
All right. One more interesting topic we got to talk about. These NBA players, when they get a little free time, like I saw Damian Lillard, he was on, obviously we heard about Ja Morant and what he did on IG Live. Damian Lillard was on IG Live, and they asked him, hey, flash the gun. He was like, nope, I ain't doing that. In the same IG Live, he's like, oh, I'm going to the Lakers, like in jest. And I'm like, come on, bro, what are you doing? But then these guys get to, not just Instagram. They use all kind of social media, even Twitter. Josh Hart was on Twitter, and I got to read this direct quote.
Read it to me.
It was a very interesting quote, to say the least, and I'm not sure how company's going to like this one, but we got to talk about it anyway, right? So Josh Hart is a player for the Knicks, obviously, and he's on social media a lot. He said, and I quote, this is a direct quote from Josh Hart on Twitter. Have y'all ever tasted y'all significant other's breast milk? Asking for a friend. That friend is him, obviously. When you saw this initial tweet, man, before I get into my thoughts on this, when you saw this initial, first of all, Josh Hart, you don't got a PR team, you don't got a social media team, and it's still up. You want to go check it out, it's still on his page. But Matt, what was your first initial thought when you saw this?
I think it's the same initial thought I have with most things right now with Twitter. I didn't see, I was like, is this a real Josh Hart account? I thought it was a fan account. I mean, the fact that we talked about this before, but these NBA players, dude, like, how is that going to be the tweet that you put out to your hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter? I don't know. Like, I think it was, Jalen Brunson, his teammate from Villanova, like their teammates on the Knicks. He put a screen recording of him literally unfollowing Josh Hart. like, I don't blame him, man. Like, I just, Josh Hart, hey, you do you, man. But maybe, next time you decide to put out a tweet, run it by, like you said, get a PR guy, ask somebody.
PR team, make sure the Knicks are all right with it. CJ McCollum even posted about it. He said, sick conversation. Heard it goes down like almond milk. And I'm a father of 3. So I don't have, what I'm saying? I had a chance to taste it a little bit, but like, that's wild to put on there. Hey, I did comments on it too with like some milk glasses. You know what I'm saying? But listen, like these guys, bro, how down bad are you during this offseason where that's the direction this conversation is going? I love that they're having the conversation though. Like it's fun, it's spirited, but let's keep it, there's some limits we got to have on Twitter. I know Twitter's the place, like it used to be, you could say whatever you wanted on Twitter and nobody would know. But in today's world, people know who unfollows who. Like you can't, I don't know.
That's a group. That's a group text message. That's a group text. Like you send that with your boys or something like that. You don't put it on social media to all your followers.
Or maybe you do, and that's why we're talking about it. Exactly. Maybe you want to become more marketable.
You know what?
Maybe Josh Hart
sponsorship out of it or something.
Sponsored by Similac. Yo, that does it for today's episode. Y'all make sure you download the Champions Round app. And like I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, play Spicy Subs this week. Win a Damian Lillard signed jersey. We will be back next week right here, 12 p.m. Pacific time, 3 o'clock Eastern time. It's been real on the Justin Henry Show from our producer, Nick Durst, co-host M-Bone HD, a.k.a. Matt, myself, Justin Henry. We'll see y'all next time. Peace out.